We need to welcome our guest, Hayden Rushworth. Thank you for coming in today, Hayden.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here. Anybody who is interested in being involved in the creative industry, but particularly the entertainment industry, they come to a point where they have to ask a very, very, very important question that they need to be very, very clear about. Are you pursuing your craft or your art for yourself or for other people? Now, most of the time we'll say, well, it's a bit of both. And yes, that may be true, but ultimately, no man can serve two masters. Ultimately, we have to make a choice about, with our creative endeavors, are we doing it for ourselves or for somebody else? Because there'll always come a difficult choice where you can't do both.
When you meet people, can you quite quickly figure out what kind of person they are, why they do what they do? It's
very rare that I meet performers and entertainers who are focused on their audience. Usually they're focused on something that they enjoy to do themselves first, and that's okay.
Well, I guess you have to, really, don't you?
That's how we get started. Yes. Something fires us up to motivate us to go through endless hours of practice.
You're not going to do that sort of thing if you don't enjoy it, are you?
No, absolutely. But there comes a point where you have to make a decision as to, okay, am I going to carry on doing this for other people? Let's take musicians, for example. Musicians are a great example of when you write a song, when they write a song, are they writing it and this is a legitimate reason to write a song, as a form of self-therapy, because almost like a journal. It's like there's an emotion and a feeling that you're struggling to deal with, and writing a song about it and it almost helps you to kind of release some of that emotional tension. That's okay. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody in the world's going to want to listen to it.
No, and that's probably not going to make you lots and lots of money. Although sometimes it does.
It might do by accident. Because we're all humans, and if somebody's healing a broken heart, there are lots of other people who are healing broken hearts. And if somebody heals their broken heart through a song that's really touching, it'll resonate with lots of people. So in fairness, there is plenty of room for crossover. However, I think when you start to if you decide to create your entertainment for other people, it changes the way you examine yourself. And I actually think that you get better. I think you improve more, because when you stop looking at yourself in the mirror and going, well, it made me feel good, so it's fine. And that's okay if that's what you want to do. But if you want to be a professional, you need to be willing to look at yourself in the mirror and go, well, I liked it, but does anybody else? And you look at the figures, the stats from followers on social media and sales and ticket and downloads and that kind of thing, and realize nobody's listening. You might howl at the moon and say, well, nobody gets me. That might be true. Or you could stop and go, it's just not resonating with people. How can I go back to the drawing boards? And what can I create that I still like, that still represents me, but it moves people? It's about being willing to be a bit more calculated. Not for malicious reasons, but for reasons of saying, well, how can I... If your goal is to help people, if your goal is to move people, if your goal is to help people who are struggling with a broken heart, to heal that broken heart, for example, then it's not a bad thing to be calculated about your craft. Like the screenplay I've written, I love it. I love it. I have laughed and I have cried as I've written this thing. And the people who've read it are doing backflips about it. I've had some really positive responses from the tiny handful of people who've read it. And some of them have been industry insiders. But I don't know for sure whether they're just being nice to me.
Yeah, you never can tell, can
you? Here in Wales, capitalism is a dirty word, broadly speaking. And in America, socialism is a dirty word, broadly speaking. I mean, I'm generalizing, of course, but by and large, there are some fundamental different cultural and political and social differences between Wales and the United States. And that you'd notice that in all kinds of areas of life. But here in the film and TV industry, I think it's not just Wales, but Britain generally, there is a different cultural background to why we make movies. In Hollywood, from the very start, they made movies to make money. And lots of hard decisions are made that are quite cutthroat because it's fundamentally always about the money. Here in Britain, and particularly in Wales, an awful lot of stuff is made with a socialist kind of leaning, which fundamentally is about compassion and heart and feeling, and caring is sharing, and about kind of including everybody, but without necessarily having when anybody talks about, I've noticed here in Wales, when anybody talks about funding, it's always donated from somebody. It's typically, occasionally it comes from a genuine investor who wants their money back plus interest. Usually it's some kind of fund BFI, Welsh government funding, with there's a long list, and lottery funding, and it's funding, and by and large, this money comes based on ticking the right kind of boxes for qualifying for this. I am pursuing something that sits in between those two. What I'm interested in is entertainers whose sole purpose is not necessarily to make money at one end, or just to go begging for money because they want somebody to pay them to do something that they like to do at the other end. Those are the two extreme ends. But what you have is this is the dream, is to have people who want to be great entertainers because they want to make people happy. Where the focus is on having a happy audience, an audience who they want escapism. They need something that just helps them to deal with life's burden. That's one of the major reasons we consume entertainment. It helps. It just helps to lift us.
Yeah.